All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am with my guest this week, one Ken Strauss, who, for better or worse, is known from the 2019 World Series of Poker's the Naked Bandit. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about, Ken, because your life has changed a lot between then and now. We're going to get into some topics, heavy topics like mental health awareness. I applaud you for taking the time to chat with me.
Well, thanks for having me on your show, Chad. 2019 was certainly a challenging year as you know, a terrible, event happened to me in Las Vegas at the Rio. And first off, before we get into talking about all that, I just want to apologize to the WSOP, the hotels, casinos in Las Vegas, and to the non-poker people that were affected by my actions. I take full responsibility and accountability to what happened and ultimately accepted the consequences, not just legally, but socially for what happened as well. And, I just truly am sorry, and I'm doing much better right now.
Well, that's good. And we're going to get into that for a moment. I mean, I remember the 2019 WSOP and what transpired. And for those who might not know, who are either watching or listening, it was for a poker perspective, it was you played in the World Series of Poker main event that year. And it was on day one and moved all in blind and ended up, throwing a shoe and, pulling down the pants thing. And then, there's other things that happen about Vegas. And again, I don't need to delve too much into it, but I remember thinking, as long as others were, as well as others were, like, this is kind of crazy, and there must be some mental health aspect to this. And can you explain a little bit exactly what? Yeah, obviously in the moment you didn't know, but what here we are 4 or 5 years later. Can you
Mhm.
explain a little bit what the situation was back then?
Sure. Well, um, I would definitely say three things attributed to what had happened. One was I wasn't really taking good care of my health. Um, I was going to a lot of sporting events, poker tournaments, not eating healthy, and um, certainly through all that, it caused a lot of health issues and mental health issues ultimately. Secondly, like because of a lot of sporting events I went to in Pittsburgh, I kind of became like a known interest in this area. Like all the media, sports media, news media got to know me. And, you know, um, from that, I kind of got addicted to that lifestyle. And I just kept wanting to do more and more and more. And, ultimately, I got burnt out from doing all the games and traveling and just my lifestyle. And then some things happened, and ultimately, I would say the one big thing that happened was in 2018. My childhood synagogue, Tree of Life, had a mass shooting. It was a big story, and I didn't really take that too well because even though I'm not really religious, it was still my childhood synagogue, and I got really angry from it. And talking to some people after, um, it just kind of made me more angrier as time went on. And then by like the middle of June of 2019, I was just a hot mess. And I shouldn't have ever gone to Vegas to begin with, but I still went. And unfortunately, a psychotic episode happened. And that kind of ties in with the third thing being that, I was just kind of getting burnt out of, what I was doing day to day. And, I just ultimately lost my marbles at the wrong time on the grandest stage of poker.
Yeah, it was certainly was a memorable moment, if you will, for better or worse, at the World Series. But then, of course, it was throughout Las Vegas at many different venues, and ultimately leading to an arrest. Did you, after all of this, get some sort of mental health treatment or any sort of help?
Yeah, so after I got brought in, I was in like the booking room and I saw like cameras in there, like video cameras. People were like recording a TV show. So I didn't even realize it was jail. I thought I was at a reality TV studio. And I went into the whole process thinking I was on a reality TV show. And again, my head wasn't fully there. And,
Right.
I mean, the officers in there went along with what I was talking about. And I thought, hey, I got to come up with some storylines here. And, I was in Clark County Detention Center for a little while. I will say they have great hot dogs. And, you know, um, I got, you know, interviewed by some doctors and whatnot. And, they declared that I was incompetent. And I said, well, I'm not incompetent. I'm on a reality TV show. And they said, listen to yourself. You're going with us to hospital. So I got out of the detention center, went to Stein Hospital, which is a part of the state hospital treatment center. And I was in there for quite a while. I would say probably 3.5 months. And, they put me on medicine and eventually I kicked out of this funk I was in and ultimately went back to CCDC for a couple weeks and then got released in early 2020 and went to Boston for what I was hoping for be a couple weeks, but then the pandemic hit and I was stuck in Boston a little longer than I had excuse me, had hoped for.
Right. Yeah, it's the timing of it too, like you said, you mentioned the pandemic. I know a lot of people, that was a tough time for a lot of people, and here you are coming out of a very tough time. In the year of the pandemic and the years that have followed since, has it continued to be a struggle for you? Have you continued to improve and get better? What's the journey been like between then and now, and where are you at these days?
Okay, so when I got out of Vegas and went to Boston and then the pandemic hit, I would say the recovery process started out worse. Between like March of 2020 and say April 2021, I was hospitalized 3 times. Nothing as bad as what happened in Vegas, but just, people that were watching out for me were kind of concerned and said, maybe going in for a checkup just to make sure you're all right. And, then I got probation and went through that process and had a great therapist through that. And every time something seemed to finally start getting a little better, something life happening, like a person passing away or trying to contact someone and them not contacting me back, it kind of set me back. So I would say into 2021, I moved into my new condo here. I'm back in Pittsburgh. And again, just kind of slowly going through, getting through the probation and just trying to get as better as possible. But then so and so passed away and this person passed away. And then I get the worst phone call, April 2022. I get a call from a friend. She's like, hey, I'm calling about your brother. And I was like, what's going on? Oh, he passed away last night. I was like, oh my God. So that just pretty much wiped out 2022 at that point. And I had lost my mother in 2013 to cancer and then lost my father in 2014, the following Mother's Day, the first Mother's Day without my mother. My dad passes away 7 o'clock that morning and he had multiple sclerosis. And then he just ended up losing, he ended up getting pneumonia and couldn't recover from that. So my family of four now become just me, myself, and I. And, getting into 2023, I was starting to realize, I got to get out of this funk. I don't have a whole lot of friends right now. I got a new cell number. I haven't really contacted a whole lot of people. and I needed to find some inspiration, and went online. And first person I want to give credit to, both these people being public figures. Her name is Pam, but wrestling fans will know her as Bailey. And she is just very, very positive on social media. And she's a big sports fan, 49ers fan. And she's great at her job. And, like during the holidays, she's giving back and helping, less fortunate people out, and just seems like a real wonderful person. And I had met her a couple years prior to kind of following her online. And this past April, I was in Philadelphia for WrestleMania. I got a chance to see her and thank her for being such a positive influence for me. And I told her, briefly about my parents and my brother, and I had some struggles myself, and she just really appreciated it. And I'll tell you, there's no better feeling than thanking someone who, really helped and inspired you. And then the second person is Kaylee Hartung, who's an NFL sideline journalist on Amazon Prime. She's also on the NBC Today show, and she's even working the NFL draft this weekend. And she did an interview probably about 18 months ago. But when I was kind of down in a funk, I did a Google search for mental health sports stories, and this interview came up of her. And I had always been a fan of hers from a like a casual standpoint, just watching her on TV covering games. But her story, her interview was incredible. Like, she lost her dad at age 10, lost her best friend at age 13, and how she overcame all that at such a young age to become who she is right now, really, hit home with me. And just how she talked about her journey to overcome all that. And at the end of the interview, she said something that really hit home with me again. And she said, you just got to bet on yourself. And I'm watching the interview and I go, you know what? She's absolutely right. And the next day, and this was a year ago, I started reconnecting with people. I had everybody's phone number saved who I wanted to reach out to, and I reached out to hundreds of people. And some people responded, some people didn't respond, some people I talked to once or twice. But, I get it. Everybody handled that news in their own way. And, I'm very fortunate and blessed for the people that are on my side. And those are my real friends. And I'm very thankful for that. And after reconnecting with people, I started traveling again. Late last year, I went to North Carolina for a wrestling convention. I am a wrestling fan, in case you haven't noticed. And, I went to Florida over Christmas week, played my first live poker tournament in a card room in years. And, I didn't win, but kept all my clothes on. So it was a good, it was a good tournament in that regards. But, and then I went out to Seattle in February to see a Penguins game. It was the first regular season Penguins game I had been to in 5 years. And then just a few weeks ago, took my biggest trip, went to Philadelphia for WrestleMania. It was my 10th WrestleMania I attended. And then I went up to New England, where I used to live, and visited a bunch of college friends, high school friends, people I used to work with, and old family friends. It was a very productive and positive trip for me. And then I went down to New Orleans for the Lakers Pelicans game last week. So traveling again, definitely a lot. This is the happiest I've been in a long, long time. And I'm just very thankful for the people that have been, by my side, over the last couple of years.
It's good to hear, that you found some inspiration, that you are betting on yourself and getting back out there. And, certainly from the last time the poker world kind of seen you in 2019 to now here 5 years later, it does seem like you are headed in a good direction. I did want to ask a little bit about, the fallout of what did happen in 2019. I know, we talked a little bit about the arrest and then the going to the mental health facility, but you also had a lot of legal issues to contend with. And from what I understand, that ultimately, the prosecutors realized that this was more of a mental health case than anything else, and gave you some probation and required you to seek some treatment. Is that all accurate?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, when all the legal stuff happened, and again, like when I went into the CCDC, I thought I was on a reality TV show. So I didn't even realize I was even in any trouble. And then once I got out of there, they gave me paperwork. They're like, you're going to have a future court date. And I'm like, and I had a friend come out and get me in Las Vegas who lives in Boston. And he was explaining to me, yeah, this is what happened. And I really don't remember much of it, but I remember bits and pieces. And yeah, we agreed on a 2-year informal probation. I wasn't allowed in any of the casinos. I wasn't allowed in Clark County for 2 years. And I had to seek mental health treatment, which I did. And that was pretty much it. Yeah. And,
It's
through,
sorry not to interrupt,
no, no.
but we mentioned the travel. I assume you haven't been back to Vegas since these incidences.
I went back once for a court appearance, trying to get the charges thrown out, but that didn't happen. And then that was, I want to say March of 2020. And the night I was flying home from Vegas, that's when the whole Tom Hanks getting COVID happened. And it's probably the last flight, one of the last flights that happened for a while. I was lucky to get out of there. So
Right.
that's the last time I was in Vegas.
Do you know, are you currently banned from some of these casino properties, still banned from the World Series of Poker? Do you know the status of that sort of thing?
As far as I know, I am still banned from the WSOP and from Caesars, MGM properties, and maybe station properties. And I was talking to an attorney in Las Vegas about, I said, how can we maybe go about getting reinstated? He didn't think it was something realistic, so I haven't really pursued it. But I mean, if there's a way to get reinstated, I'm all for it. I'd like to play the WSOP again, but I understand if I can't. I mean, it's understandable.
I think for you to be willing to chat with me on these topics and about the past, speaks volumes about where you are, and I'm happy to see it. I think at the time, back in 2019, it was just this wild occurrence that a lot of people, thought was funny or made fun of, but there was some serious underlying issues there. And, to see that you are on the right path here 5 years later is certainly a good thing.
Well, thank you for those kind words. And, the work's not done. I still, every day I wake up, I think about where my mental health's at. I do brain activities, brain exercises. Even playing poker is considered a good brain exercise for mental health. Listening to music, exercising. I mean, one of the pictures I sent you this week, I lost a lot of weight through this process as well, and ate a lot of applesauce, and wasn't eating nachos, and drinking alcohol at sporting events. I haven't had a sip of alcohol in 5 years. I gave up alcohol. I haven't really played much poker in the last 5 years, so I had to find new hobbies, and that you know came along through time. And I watch a lot more news than I used to. I read a lot more than I used to online. And Just keeping my mind going and just feeling, level, not feeling too high. I would say from 2015 to 2019, I mean, you're talking about, 365 days a year. I was probably going to sporting events, poker tournaments, uh, entertainment events, probably 300 of those days a year. And with that came an unhealthy diet, as I earlier mentioned, and um, just a lifestyle that I really never had in the past. And um, got a lot of attention here locally. Like between 2015, 2019, the Penguins, the NHL team, who plays here in Pittsburgh, played 69 postseason games from 2015 to 2019. I attended 68 of those games.
Wow.
Missed one because of a friend's wedding. It's the only reason I missed the one. And that was game 3 of the finals in 2016 at San Jose. And, no problems. I'm still friends with him and the family and childhood friend, and actually went to dinner with his parents last week. And it was the first time I had seen them in years. I've also seen all 124 teams in the 4 major sports play a home game, which again, I'm thinking, wow, it was really manic. I mean, who does that? But I mean,
Well,
I did.
it's yeah, and it's certainly, it's cool. Like I would like to be able to do that, but it certainly takes a lot of dedication and a lot of passion. Ken, before I do, go ahead.
And a lot of money.
Oh yeah, certainly a lot of money. Before I let you go, is there anything else that you'd like to say or share with the poker world?
I just want to say, I'm doing 100 times better. I know the internet really didn't paint a good picture of me back in 2019. A lot of the stuff was alleged news. I mean, I was never in Reno, for example, and I never watched back the video of what I, did back then, and really never read any of the articles either, because I knew that wasn't me, and I just knew I had to focus on myself and get better. And you're getting to see that today. And I guess finally, just thanking some real good friends I've had over the course of the recovery. My old college roommate Jeff Mallon, um, Andy, the cameraman here in Pittsburgh, works for NBC Pittsburgh here locally. Another guy who used to work for the network, Aaron, he's down in Florida raising his 2 kids right now with his wife. Those are really the 3 people I really owe the most gratitude. And then, there's a lot of others who in the last year have been, a tremendous support system, and, they know who they are, and I appreciate all of them as well.
Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and kind of put the naked bandit to rest, so to speak, and give the poker world an opportunity to meet Ken Strauss. And really glad to see how you're doing.
Thanks so much for having me on your show, Chad.